It's Politics and Pizza Day. So you've got to stick around for that, haven't you? I'll tell you about the pizza later, but first of all, politics. Boy, what a night it was last night. Super Tuesday, 6 wins out of 10 for Mitt Romney. Is it enough to quiet the gathering hordes who claim that the Republican Party won't quite embrace him and therefore he won't stand a chance against President Obama? Is he now distinctly on the path to the nomination, or does Rick Santorum still have a chance? The only people in the world who know for sure are Bob Rice, managing partner at Tangent Capital, with me in the studio here, and former Congressman Artur Davis, Democrat from Alabama, joining us from Boston today. That's a long way from home, but welcome to you, Artur. Good to have you here.
Glad to be here. Good to talk to you and your audience.
Now, tell me what you think of last night's results. Does it change anything?
Well, this is what would disconcert me if I was in Mitt Romney's campaign. Mitt Romney cannot crack, except in a race with Ron Paul where the other candidates couldn't get on the ballot. Mitt Romney can't seem to crack beyond a certain threshold in this contest. The only reason that Rick Santorum has not overtaken Mitt Romney is the fact that a guy named Newt Gingrich stays in the race and keeps siphoning off a certain percentage of the vote. If Gingrich had gotten out of the race a few weeks ago, Santorum would have had a huge night last night and might possibly be in the lead in this race now. I strongly suspect that Mitt Romney is going to be the Republican nominee for all kinds of reasons, including just inertia and resources. But there's obviously a significant number of conservatives who don't want to vote for him. Now, of course, they're going to vote for him against Barack Obama. But I assume the question for many Republicans is, will the enthusiasm be there? There's a big difference in whether Republicans want to get out and vote this November or whether they feel demoralized as they did in 2008. Today, I think that's an operative question based on Romney's continuing weakness and the narrowness of these victories last week and this week in two big states.
Bob, he won 6 out of 10. He got Ohio, which everybody said was a must-win for him because it's such a battleground state in the general election. Are we sort of reflexively talking Romney down too much because that's been the narrative throughout this campaign? Should everybody sort of take a step back and say, look, he's gradually building the delegates, he's going to get the nomination, and back off a little bit?
Well, I think the first part, yes. He is going to gradually pick up the delegates. He's going to grind his way to this nomination. Should you back off a little bit? I don't think you should back off a little bit, because the real big story here is who's going to be the next president of the United States, not who's going to be the Republican nominee. Mm-hmm. And when you do that analysis, you know, there are some incredibly troubling signs here for the Romney campaign. I mean, I think it would be generally acknowledged that Rick Santorum isn't the strongest presidential candidate that anyone has ever seen, and yet Romney is barely squeaking out victories after outspending him, depending on which source you want to look at, somewhere between 5-1 and 12-1 in negative TV ads. So if that's all he can do, is that really going to get it done in a general election? Very hard to imagine, as we've said many times on this show, it's very hard to imagine the Republicans winning this contest unless they win 2 states. Ohio and Florida are both really critical. Ohio showed huge problems for the Romney campaign in Ohio yesterday, and I think that the poll that was out from Fox the other day, Fox Latino, which showed that Romney's going to pick up 14% of the Latino vote, is a big problem in Florida. So I think there are real concerns here.
All right, just staying on the nomination contest for a moment, Congressman. The Newt Gingrich, you were saying he should step out. You know, one of our commenters here, All for Jury, says Newt has to now win Mississippi and Alabama, or there's no way for him to justify going on to Arkansas and New Mexico. Another of our viewers says Newt is beginning to get on my nerves. That's from DeWan Christian. Do you think Newt Gingrich should get out of the race and really let this be a straight fight between the more conservative wing of the party, represented by Rick Santorum, the more moderate wing, represented by Mitt Romney?
Well, Jonathan, I'm sure Newt Gingrich could care less than zero about what I think, so I won't give someone the opportunity to send out tweets saying Davis says Gingrich should get out because he doesn't care. But I'll make this point. There's no question that Newt Gingrich is the only thing that has prevented Santorum from consolidating his hold as a social conservative in this race. I think Alabama is going to be close between Santorum and Gingrich next week, and Romney will come in third. I think Mississippi the same. Without Gingrich being in the race, Santorum would win both those states easily. Without Gingrich being in the race, I'll submit to you that Santorum would have won Michigan last week and would have won Ohio yesterday and would have won Georgia. If that had happened, and by the way, that wouldn't have required a dramatic sea change, anything in this race other than one person not being in it, we would be having a very different conversation, and Romney's campaign might be on life support. Look, I'm not someone who thinks this race is over, and I think a lot of Democrats are so overconfident right now you can't touch them. Mm-hmm. I think the Republicans have an excellent chance to come back and get competitive in this race, but you've got to assess these things in real time. You can make a case that no nominee in memory has been as weakened by his own nominating process as Mitt Romney has been in the last several months. Mitt Romney is not the same candidate today in a general matchup against Obama that he was in November of last year or even December of last year. He has been weakened by this process. His vulnerabilities have been dramatized, and he has not handled the little things well. If you're having trouble handling slingshots and pebbles from Santorum and Gingrich, the full-scale onslaught that the Obama hundreds of millions are going to put on the table, you've got to worry about your ability to handle that.